Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a video which is very, it's very stunt peg like, very fog den like. But it's something I wanted to touch upon when we were doing the Premier League predictions for the season, when I was giving my answers between 12th and 1st where I think every team would finish. I didn't get enough time to touch on this. I'm going to go through who is the key player for every team in the Scottish Premiership for the 2020-21 season. We're going to try and be as quick as possible. Some of you may disagree. I might get slagged on TikTok once again, but do you know what? This is all my opinion. If you don't like my opinion, you know where to go. Let's get right into it. Before we go any further, we now are on the verge of 20k, which is absolutely massive, which means it is time to do the giveaway that I have promised you all. If you do want to win either the Celtic home or away shirt for the 2020-21 season, look at the link in the top line of the video description. In there you will find out how to enter. All you have to do is retweet the tweet that it will direct you to through Gleam and subscribe to the Ryan118 channel. That is it. As soon as 20k is hit, I will announce the winner. Somebody will have a shirt, it'll be on me, and I'll be 70 quid down. Who cares? It's worth it for the support. Thank you all again. That's how you do it. Just follow that link. Remember and subscribe though. And let's get right into this. Also, if you want a most underrated player at every Scottish Premiership club, hit the like button. Let's go for 400 likes. Yes, it's a big ask, I know. 400, and we'll do a most underrated. That seems like it's alright. Alphabetical order it is then, and we're starting up north. We're at Aberdeen, whose key player I believe this season has got to be the man between the sticks, Joe Lewis. Now, a lot of people will be looking towards Sam Cosgrove and saying that's the key player, but there's still an uncertainty as to when he'll be back from injury. Yes, a fantastic goal scorer, and he showed last season. I mean, he was in a bit of a drought for a while, but he showed when he played his best, that's a player that has got to get rightfully linked to bigger moves, whether it be up here in Scotland or down south in England. But Joe Lewis, for me, is the man that's going to be the man to maybe perhaps save their season. The defence, for me, is still very shaky. I think there's a lot of improvement to be done. I think we saw that against Rangers, the way that Rangers got their goal. I mean, they parted like the Red Sea. There was a real kind of, I don't know, I just don't believe in Scott McKenna. I don't believe in Ash Taylor. They're not the centre-halves you want. So if someone's going to save them, it's going to be who I believe could be the best goalkeeper in this league, and that's Joe Lewis. He's someone for years has been consistent for Aberdeen. He's made marvellous saves. He's made a couple of blunders here and there, but every goalkeeper does that. He's going to be the last kind of line of defence. And Aberdeen, with those centre-halves creating issues like that as they did at the weekend, he's going to have to be alert at all times. I do believe he's got the quality to keep out as many chances as possible before he maybe throws his toys at the pram with the line in front of him. For me though, Joe Lewis is Aberdeen's key player. Celtic is a really a kind of discussion for this. Of course, Celtic are filled with great players. As a Celtic fan, I can sit down and say I'm very lucky and privileged to watch such a good Celtic team. This is the best team that Celtic have had from probably the Martin O'Neill era, and it's just littered with talent. But there's one man above all, and that is Odsonne Edouard. He is the best player in the whole country, never mind Celtic. He's a natural goal scorer. He's a fantastic technical wizard with the ball. There's just, there's not enough words in the English dictionary that can sum up how good Odsonne Edouard is. And this season, he is going to be the key to whether or not we get 10 in a row. If Edouard left the club, I would be panicking. I honestly would, because he is that good a player. We're so lucky to have a player like him. He is honestly perhaps the best from since Henrik Larsson. And it's vital that we keep a hold of him this season. I believe we will keep a hold of him this season. But there's a reason that people throw about £30-40 million price tags on that guy's head, because he is that good a footballer, scoring 20 odd goals last season. He'll do the same this season. Hat-trick in the first day of the season as well. What else is there to say about Odsonne Edouard? Dundee United, I've had to go with the obvious choice here, and it's one of the, I'm trying my best not to pick the obvious choice from each team, but for me, Dundee United's is Lawrence Shanklin. Lawrence Shanklin last season was absolutely tearing apart the Championship. He is a fantastic goal scorer. His finished ability from inside the box is honestly some of the best across the whole of the 4 divisions in Scotland. Can he take that step up to the Premiership? We need to wait and see. Of course, he didn't score at the weekend. The goal for Dundee United from the strikers was Nicky Clark. But Shanklin has had all these prices thrown at his head as well because of how good a player he can be. And I think he will come on to a game. It might take him a bit of time, but Dundee United are going to rely heavily on their strikers this season. Nicky Clark and Shanklin are going to be what carries Dundee United to, what I'll imagine, survival. But Shanklin, more than the rest of that team, is the pivotal one. And I have had doubts about him coming up to the Premiership. I wasn't too sure if he can do it with Dundee United up here. He needs a lot of service. He's not the kind of player who likes to have a lot of the ball. He likes to get the ball, shoot and get it done. That is how Shanklin plays. And will Dundee United have enough of the ball to do that? I'm not too sure. But as time goes on, I do believe Mickey Mellon will figure it out and Shanklin will thrive in the Premiership. And if he thrives in the Premiership, that's what's going to get him his move elsewhere next season. But Dundee United have done incredibly well to keep a hold of him, and I think he will eventually start scoring goals in this league. I say eventually, it could be next week for all I know. He's only played one game so far. Hamilton, I've gone with Lewis Smith. I mean, it's actually criminal that I sit down here and say someone who's younger than me. That makes me sad. Look at me. I'm fat, I'm specky, I've got Moussa Dembele shutting my wall, and I'm looking into a camera. That is my life. Whereas Lewis Smith is genuinely a week younger than me, and he's playing Scottish Premiership football. Granted, I slag Hamilton all the time, but this guy is a marvellous wee player for his age. And I think Hamilton, you know, they have lost good players in the likes of Gogic. You know, him leaving the club is going to hurt them. But players like Lewis Smith, they offer that little bit of spice, you know, a little bit of technique in there, which Hamilton players, they don't normally have a lot of, let's be quite honest. You know, a lot of the players are bigger, you know, they play the 4-4-2 under Brian Rice, and it's going to be typical, you know, get the ball up the park, let's get it in the back of the net football. It's not going to be a lot of handling the ball, well, not handling the ball, that would be a handball, but having a lot of ball to the feet stuff. Not going to be a lot of that Hamilton. I like Brian Rice's intentions. I think Lewis Smith's a key part of that. Naturally, a centre midfielder, he played in the right at the weekend. I think he's going to have a big season. If he's expendable as that, if he's going to be versatile enough to play in the middle and on the right hand side, he's going to be big for Hamilton, allowing him a lot more options. So Lewis Smith for me is their key player. Hibs, for me, it had to be Scott Allen. There is a few good players in that Hibs team. I'm very excited to see what Kevin Nisbet will do in this division. Martin Boyle has been shown over the past 6 months how good a footballer he can be. They have got good players all over the shop. I'm a big fan of Stevie Mallan as well, but Scott Allen, no one can pick a pass like him. Arguably one of the best passers in this league. Outside Celtic and Rangers, he could be in that conversation for best in the league. And he's shown how good he was last season. You know, after a terrible spell at Celtic, there was a lot of questions whether or not he'd be able to pick it up and get right back to the level of football that we've seen before he took that move to Celtic. But last season, he put all the doubters, you know, he silenced it all. And his passing ability, even he can create out of nothing. The assists that he racked up last season, some of them are just unbelievable to watch. The plays just unfurl from absolutely nowhere. He's a great passer of the ball and he can score. So for me, he was a complete package in that Hibernian side. Yes, they have got other good players. I would love to see Stevie Mallan get back to right, you know, top fitness level, show that he can be the best player in that team. Because I've always been a big fan of him. I mean, there was a time where I sat down and said Stevie Mallan's the next John McGinn. Let me just actually think about that for a second. But Scott Allen, for me, is the all-round, you know, great player, best player at Hibs. It's got to be this season. Kilmarnock was the hardest team to actually pick a standout player from. That might sound surprising, considering they've got the likes of Hamilton, St Mirren, Ross County, teams that are always down the bottom end of the table. But for me, Kilmarnock has not got a standout player. I've went with the Plastic Park. That is the key player for Kilmarnock this season. The closest runner-up for me was Gary Dicker. And I'll tell you why. Gary Dicker makes life difficult in the middle of the park. He's tough, he loves a tackle, players do not like playing against him. But the Plastic Park, no players like playing in that. And I could easily say that for Livingston, Hamilton and Kilmarnock, but Rugby Park is completely different from the other two. I hate going to Rugby Park. It's horrible. For me, that is it. That AstroTurf pitch, a lot of players can't even play in it. You remember Joseph Siminovic, he just wasn't allowed to play on those parks because it could severely damage his knees. It's a horrible thing to have up in this country. We need to change it, but for them, the home advantage is madness. The points they can rack up at Rugby Park it's pivotal for their season. For me, the key player for Kilmarnock is that park. Livingston, I've went for Alan Forrest, and hear me out. A lot of people might be saying, "Whoa, he's just came up to this league." Same with Shanklin, I suppose. But a lot of people are saying he played for Ayr. He's not played top flight football. How can you say that'll be the key player when Livingston had so many good players last season? For me, the biggest loss in perhaps the whole Scottish Premiership was Stephen Lawless. What a player! He was a team of the season player for me last year. I think Livingston should have done their best to try and keep him in the club, but obviously had his sights set on a move, and now he finds himself down at Burton Albion. But Stephen Lawless racked up assists. He was tricky on that left-hand side. He was a really old-fashioned winger. He ran with the ball. He cut inside if you need to. but he was an all-out winger. Alan Forrest is going to come in, I think, at the weekend. I don't know what Gary Holt was doing. He played, obviously, he went for a completely different approach. He went for like the 3-4-2-1. He had Effie Ambrose playing at left wing back. I think eventually he will revert back to an old familiar system. I don't think it worked for him, hence why they lost. And Alan Forrest will go out to that right or left wing. I think that's what happened, and he can step up and be the heir to Stephen Lawless's Livingston throne. That is why I think he'll be the key player. Also, Lyndon Dykes is a good player. I think he's shown that, but a lot of the hype came around how well he played against Celtic. And I don't know if he's going to carry it all on this year. For me, Alan Forrest could be the one. I actually spoke far longer than I've ever intended to in this video. Motherwell, David Turnbull. Why? It's David Turnbull. Yes, he missed the entirety of last season. It's a shame because, you know, he was on the verge of that Celtic move. He rightfully earned his place there. But then everything happened. His knee went, season over. Came on for 2 appearances off the bench last season. That's all we've seen. David Turnbull is still miles beyond any player in that Motherwell team. And yes, Motherwell are a good side. They rightfully finished 3rd last season. They've got good players. Declan Gallagher is a good centre-half for them. They've got good Chris Long, decent enough striker. They've got players all over the park that are good. David Turnbull is a different game. I don't even need to say anything else. If he plays anywhere near the standard he did the year before he was injured, there's no conversation for that Motherwell side. David Turnbull. Rangers, this is the one you've been waiting for. Our Rangers fans watch, oh, who's he picking? Is he going for Morelos? Is he going for Almaguer? I'm going for Ryan Jack. Let me just get it out the way right now. Ryan Jack is the most important player in that Rangers team. I don't want to sit here and, you know, lick up his backside because that is not what I'm about. But he is. I can't deny he's a good footballer. And he's, you know, probably the toughest competition for players like Scott Brown, Cal McGregor in the middle of the park. I think he knows how to set the tone of a game. Defensively he's good, going forward he's good, he's got a good eye for a pass. There's a lot of good solid, I don't think he's exceptional in many fields, but he's certainly good at all the basics. And that's what matters about a central midfielder for me. I don't think you have to be an exceptional player. Callum McGregor, I do believe, is fantastic, but what's best about Callum McGregor's game is what Damien Duff said, and that's he can do all the basics so well. And I think that's the same with Ryan Jack. A good footballer. Yes, Rangers have got other good players, have made some good signings as well yesterday, bringing in those 2 forwards, but for me, it was a simple answer, and that's Ryan Jack. Going to try and go through the last 3 as quickly as possible because I've been talking for 15 minutes and I wanted this to be as close to a 10-minute video as possible. Ross County, I've gone for Ross Stewart. Why? I think the statistics show it all. And why? Did you see him play against Motherwell the other night? He was the best player in the park. Simple, tricky player, good down that wing. And, you know, Ross County don't have a squad full of good players, let's be honest, but he's the best out of them all. You know, Billy Mackay, it could be him, but he's just too inconsistent. I think Ross Stewart has a lot more consistency in his game. St Johnstone, I've gone for the young boy himself, Alistair or Ali McCann, whatever you prefer, son. For me, he was a shout for Young Player of the Year last season, and I believe on my channel I might have actually given him Young Player of the season because he was that good. And this is a guy who, I don't know how long he'll be at St Johnstone, but if he plays anywhere near the level he did last season, a move will come calling for him soon. I think he deserves to play in a more attacking side. Tommy Wright is now gone, Callum Davidson's in. That might change the perspective of the season for St Johnstone. Maybe Ali McCann will change due to the managerial change. Maybe his role will change. Maybe he might not be as good as what he was last season. Maybe he liked Tommy Wright. There's so many questions surrounding St Johnstone that I just don't have any sort of prediction or answer to because things are going to change dramatically there. You know, that is such a big change just to manage itself. But Ali McCann is certainly the key player because it's no fucking Stevie May. Finally, I'm going for St Mirren and I am going with Conor McCarthy. If you've watched the Talk Scottish Football podcast, you will know all my answers why. I think Conor McCarthy is a solid centre-half. I believe he was a fantastic signing for them in January, and there's a lawnmower going off out there that's making the video a bit annoying. And I think he showed that again at the weekend against Livingston. I was watching that game from Dogs's live stream. It was a game I was assigned to, and Conor McCarthy was once again solid. Good at getting rid of the ball, strong, he's big, he's physical, he keeps his shirt tucked in, which is nice to see. You don't get that often, but in all seriousness, as a footballer, I think he's going to be pivotal as to, you know, St Mirren are always going to be one of those teams that could find themselves on the back foot, and they need strong defenders. He's the answer to that. Conor McCarthy for me is your answer for St Mirren, and that's all 12 teams. That does it then. If you have enjoyed, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, remember the giveaway. A lot of people might agree with me, a lot of people might disagree with me, but it is what I'm going for anyways. So, if you have enjoyed, do all the good stuff, and I'll see you all next time.